Hello, I'm Sacco, and welcome back to another Mechabellum replay review. Starting off with the opening packs, we have access to the Rhino Specialist, which honestly seems like the clear option here. Fiery Badger Specialist is a good specialist, but it comes with Mustang Crawler, which is one of the weaker unit combinations in the game. Of course, this is similar to the Rhino Specialist pack, and Fortified Specialist is a lower tier specialist, so I end up choosing that. Now, some people like to prioritize the HP for the starting packs, or some people like to prioritize the unit combinations. But honestly, I think if you're a competitive player and you are flexible, I think prioritizing the specialist itself seems like the way to get the biggest advantage. Now we're up against xTheConclusion, who is currently rated 2.3k MMR, and he is Giant Specialist. Something to note about Conclusion is you are seeing a lot of Fang Production fort spam in tournaments on ladder, at least at high MMR. But not too long ago, not that many people were playing Fang Production, and only Conclusion was like one of the few players at higher MMR doing that strat. Conclusion is known to play pretty greedy. He usually likes to prioritize like really solid late game boards like War Factory spam or Sledge Boat spam when these were meta. So this is something to note when playing against a player like this. So usually I like to just prioritize tempo and try to close out the game as fast as possible, because if you let the game go too long, especially against Fortress with Fang Production, you end up at a disadvantage because Fortress Fang Prod is just way too efficient. You need the Fortress player just spams one unit, while you have to buy multiple units to counter that. So we're up against the Ball Arc. Again, with the into Ball Arc, I like to do center pulls, try to get as much of my units engaging in the asim fight as possible. Most people like to do asymmetrical ball pushes since you just overwhelm them with all your resources. Of course, you are a little bit weaker to spells since more of your units are clumped together, and you're also weak to your open tower. But round one, usually asim ball push is at an advantage, especially into Stormcallers. Now, Stormcallers can kill balls. They have the DPS to do so. The problem is the balls are too fast and they just get in too quickly and do too much before the storms can actually connect. So unfortunately, his steel balls level, which is honestly very scary. You could even put photon coating on the balls, and that would be a little bit of a problem. Improved Phoenix honestly is a really good card as well, since it makes you basically immune to Fortress Anti-Air. But I usually just, again, I like to prioritize tempo. I like to get as much value on the board. So usually my round 2 against this is skip for 2 Phoenixes. Now, Phoenixes are really good DPS, maybe one of the best early answers to steel balls, other than like sledges for slowing them down. And of course, it's good to get anti-air round 2 so you can secure a round 1 if they don't do so. Now, I'm not really slowing down the ball push with the Phoenixes here. I am more so just trying to greed and have a cheese turn, basically. Like, I'm putting my Phoenixes like literally on the line so I can snipe the arc lights. If I kill the arc lights immediately, his balls won't be able to really connect and get on tower because they'll be stuck on crawlers. And I'm getting rid of basically all his chaff here. Now, it is a bit of a gamble because he could buy... I honestly didn't expect Mustangs round 2. It makes no sense into this board, in my opinion. Like, Mustangs are good late game units, but into crawlers and arcs doesn't make too much sense. But he is showing his hand. His goal is probably just like Mustang Fortress spam. So, a little bit surprising, but it should honestly still be a reasonable play. I do have access to Jump Drive Phoenix, which I do like to use as a defensive tool for tower snipes and pressuring weak towers. So, this should still be, even considering the fact that he bought a Mustang, a pretty decent turn. Now, I am surprised he didn't level the ball. Like, he had the money and he used that money to fortify the tower, which is interesting because he has an arc light already defending it, but he's not really committing to the steel ball for whatever reason. Now, I immediately snipe the arc lights, and now my Stormcallers can get to work since the balls will be distracted. Now, unfortunately, my arc light is stuck on the steel ball at the moment where I need it to be shooting at tower to protect from the crawlers, but this is a bit of the problem of not having Fangs early, because Fangs are really good at funneling chaff, but since I didn't have access to Fangs, I had crawlers behind tower. It's very hard to funnel chaff in the early stage, and I unlocked the Phoenix round 2 for the early tempo, so not the worst turn, honestly. I will have to invest 100 in Jump Drive, but honestly, I think it's really worth it. Now again, conclusion, not leveling his steel balls does tell me a lot about what he's trying to do. He's basically just trying to force Fortress Fang Product. It's like that simple. Like, he's giant specialist. There's not many giants you really want in this scenario, and conclusion likes to do these like greedy late game build deep plays, so it's kind of expected here. Now look at this crawler go. Dumb storm crawlers, they can't even see what's happening. Alright, slow this down. Intensive trading can be an interesting pickup, but I really don't have anything I really want to intensively train. Now, perhaps he could have a level 3 steel ball, or he could have a new level 2 Mustang. That is definitely something to worry about, but now that he showed his hand with Mustang Fortress, I'm going to set up just a good shaft board with arc lights and crawlers. Of course, I jump drive the Phoenixes back to more reasonable positions, more so to deal with the steel balls once they come on in. And I position my arc light on the outside to cover the flank, but also to cover this shallow flank crawler that's coming in here. So he does opt for the intensive training on a new Mustang. He doesn't want to waste the experience on the level 1 Mustang, so it makes a lot of sense. He is positioning his Mustangs really far back. I don't hate this Mustang being far back because it covers flank, but this Mustang I feel like could be a little bit further forward. But honestly, I get why you position your Mustangs far back. It leaves room for war factories if that's like the strategy you're going for. But also, when fire spell and oil spells come down, you can shield a little bit further ahead of the Mustangs, and the Mustangs can sit in the bubble for a majority of the fight. So it makes a lot of sense here. Now he's adding an arc light to pull whatever chaff that I'm going to place behind tower. And I also fortify both towers. I think early tower fortifications are really good against aggro because not only does it reduce the debuff, but it makes the tower a little bit harder to go down. And if I kill the steel balls, he doesn't have the best DPS at taking down the tower. And I think with my Stormcallers and Phoenixes, I think his steel balls are pretty useless here now, right? Now Mustangs is, again, like, I love Mustangs. It's one of my most played units in the current season. But I think with the way things go out with the arc lights and crawlers early game, it's very hard to get into Mustangs until later, until you have like a tank, until you have sufficient crawler clear, right? Or else the Mustangs will get stuck in crawlers or they'll get killed by other arc lights. So I think it's a little bit of a too early for Mustangs. But again, like Conclusion's playing this late game econ board, so he's just more so just setting up for like the round 8 board to win, right? Now, it's honestly, I think it's a really clear Fire Badger pickup here. It's good into the steel balls, and it's decent tank. And it also allows me to basically just get a free win against ASIM pushes, where you can, since we have access to the tower oil, I can just burn all this chaff and basically get a free win. Wow, defending is so hard. All right, so we put the Fire Badger up close so I can go for a nice oil, and I put the Badger in front of the Arclight so I can tank for the Arclight and not like give up any of my chaff for free. Now it is my Rhino turn, so it should be a good tempo turn for me on top of the oil. I'm now going to pressure this weak side tower since he's not defending it with the Rhino, and I jump drive my Phoenixes to the right side. I don't really need my Phoenixes if everything just dies on the left side, so it's a perfect time to call them to this tower. Getting a mobile beacon to run on in. Looks like he has also showed his hand, which of course is not like it's expected. He's going Fortress. He's just going to buy infinite Fortresses and attempt to win the game that way. Now, the one downside of Fortress spam is, well, you show your hand from the beginning, and all you do the whole game for the strat to work is buy Fortress after Fortress with Fang Production, Fang Shield. So at least on that aspect, it makes it easier to counter. I also level my Stormcallers because I know some Giants are coming out soon, and at least for now, Stormcallers can be my early game Giant answer. Now, of course, Stormcallers are not reliable DPS because you can get anti-missiled, which shuts it down entirely, so it's more of a short-term play, and honestly, that's the approach that I'm going for. I'm just trying to tempo conclusion out of the game, do as much HP damage as possible, and not have to deal with this fortress shenanigans. Of course, my Rhino gets in for free because, well, he's not defending his tower. But you would imagine now that he's going to buy more forts in front of this Rhino. Of course, that was the oil turn and my Rhino turn, so should be expected that I should win if all goes right. Got some Phoenix levels, which is great. Redeploy, also one of the best cards for defending pushes, since you can threaten stuff on the flanks and reconfigure your army. And if they don't take the redeploy card and you do, it's going to be very hard to do with your moves efficiently. So we take the redeploy, and I redeploy the arc light that was on the flank to the deep flank. And the reason this is interesting is because there's no cooldown time on the flank since it's already spawned in. So it's very, like, tricky move. Now I level the Phoenixes and I just run the Rhino back in because I know if he places a fortress in front of the tower, the Rhino and the Phoenixes will actually kill it. So he won't have enough to actually defend this push, so I'm just going to run it back again. We have Arclight range, and we have an Arclight, or a Crawler on the flank just to pull the fortress and a bit of his chaff and his Mustangs away from the main push, keep this Badger alive long enough to kill the chaff and deal with the Arclight is the thinking here. So he does exactly that, places a fortress in front of the Rhino. I add a Crawler in front of the Arclight just to make sure I'm pulling all this chaff to the flank. And it should be another clean turn, I would say, just because of tower debuff. I should get this tower, and during that time, Arclights will clean up, and along with the Stormcallers, which is my best unit on the board at the moment. But he is now at 3 fortresses, so it is getting a little bit scary here. Once he clicks the Fang Production with the Fang Tech, my Arclights will not be able to clear enough chaff, right? Now, 2 Phoenixes easily deal with a fortress, and the Rhino just gets in again. And now most of my army is cleaning up his chaff. The only problem that's left is the fortress, but during debuff and the 2 level 2 storms should be able to clean everything up here. Doing a decent amount of HP damage here, and hopefully I'm trying to close out the game within 2 turns is the plan, because I don't want to have to deal with this. Now, the damage item or the laser sight is very good for him since he has intensively trained Mustangs, and that can be scary as well. So not only do I have to deal with the fortress threat, but I have to deal with the Mustang threat, and Mustangs are one of the best late game units in the game, so you definitely have to respect it, of course. So I put a damage item on my level 3 Stormcallers. And, I mean, it's just insane DPS at the moment. I don't know the math on this. I forget how many shots Stormcallers hit. Infinity damage. That's basically what we're going with here. Of course, it can get anti-missiles, but I can sell it any time. And this, honestly, can kill infinite fortresses if it's not anti-missile. So that's going to be my fortress answer for now. Now, of course, you're expecting Fang Production as the first tech on the forts, so I pick up a couple Mustangs to help out with the clear in that regard. And also, Mustangs are good at not only clearing chaff, or at least Fangs, they're good at acting as chaff themselves. Now, he doubles up on the fortress here, doesn't really deal with Arclight Fang, and you can imagine this Rhino does go down. So I believe I do retreat this Rhino back a little bit, since it's just going to be it's not really going to accomplish much here. He does borrow for the Fang Shield. He's trying to stabilize now, but we will see how this goes. I jumped out the Phoenixes back, just some more conservative positions, safe from the Mustangs. Fortify the tower to level 3, and actually I float 150. Now, I was probably planning to go for a blue factory with armor and photon finisher on the line, since it has like basically infinite HP and the fortresses will not be able to kill it, and that should allow me to close out the game. So that was the thinking going on here. Of course, unit drops are also round 7, so floating money for that is also very good to allow me to maybe get an answer for these fortresses here. Now the Stormcaller's doing a lot of work here. He just left this tower open since he thought, oh, it's only an arc light flank, how can it get the tower? But, you know, it eventually does go down. And that allows the Phoenixes to kill the remaining fortresses here. Now it is getting a little bit more scary now. He's got more forwards. He's got techs on the Fangs. He's got Fang Production. So ideally, round 7 is the round I would like to close out. He's down to 1.5k HP, which shouldn't be too hard to do with like a cheese play. Now the unit drops are here. There's nothing really that interesting that can do with forts outside of like Sabertooth. Scorpions, honestly, range acid or range double shot could be a good move, but I opt for a different plan that I think is more guaranteed and won't be dealt with. Now Mustangs and Fangs, like the weakness of this comp is the anti-air. It doesn't have the best anti-air when it comes to dealing with, like, let's say an armor Wraith or a field maintenance Wraith. So if I put 3 blue or level 2 Wraiths on the line with field maintenance and armor, that can lock up all the Mustangs, so he'll have no Chaffler and kill all the Fang Production for free. And it's very, like, he is giant spec. He could buy a Melter, but there's no reason for him to buy a Melter on this turn here. And based off the unit drops, he's not really concerned about that. So this should be enough to, or the thinking is this should be enough to close out the game. Because next round he can just buy Melters, and then I'm definitely gonna have some problems here. So I do loan for the play, just to make sure I can get it done. If I have, this is 900 damage, and if like maybe a couple of Storms and some Mustangs live, then that should be enough here. Jump drive my Phoenix on the flank since he's not really respecting it, and just going in for a little tower snipe to see if we can get through. He does buy 2 anti-missiles to kill my best unit, like DPS wise, so it makes a lot of sense. But as you can see, all the Mustangs are going to be now locked on the Wraith, and the Wraith is going to do a decent job at killing the Fang shields itself. And even with the anti-missile device, the Storms actually still get in anyways. So we got the Phoenixes alive, we have the Stormcallers alive, and we have 900 damage in the air. So it should be enough to end the game. Well, there you have it. That is indeed one way to deal with Fang Production forts. It is obviously not a reliable or a consistent strategy, but the general premise of countering these type of boards is to just tempo your opponent out of the game, prioritize early HP damage, take all the spells, and hopefully you end the game before it gets online. And I think it is definitely easier to do against this strat because the efficiency or the strat's like entire like selling point is that you're just spamming one unit. So, and that's what makes it so efficient with the Fang Production. Of course, if he gets the other techs, barrier and range, it makes it hard to go other answers. But it does, again, it shows his hand from the beginning, which allows me to have a clear picture of what he's doing, and I can use that information to exploit his weaknesses. For example, like use Stormcallers, go for tower snipes, and of course, one way to do it is the armor field maintenance Wraith cheese on the line. Another answer you could do, I think I already mentioned it, but you could also do, it's a common gut shot finisher. It's where you elite recruit a level 2 war factory with armor and photon. And of course, fortresses do not have nowhere near enough damage to actually kill the fortress in an efficient manner. And it'll also lock up the rest of the remaining army, like the Arclights and the Mustangs. So that's another way to do like maybe 2k damage to your opponent. Well, I would say that was an interesting match, and thanks for watching.